Selamat pagi semuanya. Balik lagi atau ketemu lagi di F-Talks pagi hari ini, hari Sabtu, weekend, live dari Surabaya. Pagi hari ini situasi di Surabaya lagi mendung, habis hujan, sendu. Jadi suasananya sebenarnya kalau misalnya ngomongin masalah weekend kayak gini tuh lebih enak buat tiduran. Tapi terima kasih banget buat kalian yang udah datang pagi hari ini, udah nyempetin buat ikut, udah nyempetin buat daftar, dan sudah datang dari jam 10 kurang atau bahkan dari jam setengah 10 tadi. Thank you untuk semua teman-teman yang sudah menyempatkan diri dan ikut kelas pagi hari ini. Nah, seperti yang kalian tahu, sesi kali ini kita melanjutkan dari dua sesi sebelumnya di rangkaian seriesnya TOEFL, di mana kalau misalnya kalian baru pertama kali ikut pagi hari ini, dua, dua bulan yang lalu. 2 bulan yang lalu itu kita sudah mulai dari sesi reading dan structure. Nah, kali ini merupakan pertemuan atau series terakhir di seriesnya TOEFL. Kita akan bahas seputar tips untuk menggunakan listening section-nya. Jadi buat kalian yang kemarin, kalau misalnya hari ini baru pertama kali ikut, kalian pengen tahu recap dari dua kegiatan sebelumnya di TOEFL, yaitu structure sama reading, kalian bisa cek di YouTube-nya IF Surabaya, @IF Surabaya. Di situ kalian bisa langsung cari aja dari rekap-rekap IF Talks sebelumnya, di mana kalian bisa belajar lagi untuk pakai ilmunya kalau ternyata dalam waktu dekat atau dalam beberapa bulan ke depan kalian akan mengikuti tes TOEFL. Nah, seperti biasa, supaya kegiatannya bisa lebih interaktif dengan cuaca yang sangat mendukung pagi hari ini di Surabaya, kalian kami persilakan untuk menyalakan kameranya juga supaya kegiatannya bisa lebih seru aja, biar kita tahu kira-kira yang ikut kelasnya siapa aja, atau misalnya nanti ada sesi-sesi yang memungkinkan untuk kalian bisa berinteraksi sama Mr. Darren pagi hari ini, kalian juga bisa menyalakan mikrofonnya. Cuman untuk sementara waktu, kita akan mute kalian dulu. Jadi nanti selama materinya disampaikan, kalau misalnya kalian atau teman-teman di sini punya pertanyaan, bisa langsung dicantumkan saja di kolom chat box. Nanti kita akan bacakan di sesi-sesi tertentu dan biar langsung bisa dijawab sama Mr. Darren. Nah, supaya kalian juga, aku mau memastikan dulu apakah kalian bisa mendengarkan suaranya ini dengan jelas, kalian bisa respon dengan menceritakan kalian berasal dari mana dan bagaimana cuaca di daerah kalian masing-masing. Karena kok kayaknya kalau misalnya ngelihat dari berita-berita beberapa hari terakhir, sepertinya cuacanya sedang kurang baik di beberapa daerah, jadi semoga saja di tempat-tempat kalian atau di daerah-daerah kalian sedang dalam keadaan yang kondusif dan tetap tenang. Boleh dibantu mungkin di kolom chat box? Nah, apakah kalian bisa mendengarkan suaranya dengan jelas? Kalian berasal dari mana dan bagaimana cuaca di tempat kalian? Oke, bisa. Terima kasih Kak Ufi. Dari Jember, Jember mendung. Ini kayaknya ya, kalau udah kayak gini. Denpasar hujan. Denpasar daerah Bali kayaknya hujan ya seminggu terakhir ya. Sukabumi cerah, Makassar panas. Denpasar hujan, Jambi panas, Malang mendung. Kayaknya area Jawa juga banyak yang mendung ya. Kediri mendung, Lumajang gerimis. Udah kayak radio ya gitu ya siarannya ya, laporan cuaca di sini. Oke, thank you teman-teman. Ini juga sudah ada beberapa teman-teman yang baru saja hadir di waiting room. Kita baru update Bogor cerah. Kayaknya kemarin Bogor juga sempat hujan ya. Syukur kalau hari ini cerah. Lumajang gerimis, Kediri mendung. Oke, kita langsung saja pagi hari ini kalau begitu. Jadi teman-teman bisa standby. Aku juga mau ngingetin bahwa materi atau topik hari ini nantinya akan disampaikan oleh Mr. Darren secara full dalam bahasa Inggris. Tapi kalian jangan khawatir, nanti untuk PPT atau materi yang akan disampaikan sama Mr. Darren, kalian akan dapat dan akan dikirimkan melalui email aktif kalian. Caranya bagaimana? Kalau misalnya kalian sudah sering ikut kegiatan IF Talks, nanti kita akan kasih tahu caranya di akhir acara. Jadi kalian bisa standby untuk bisa dapat materinya. Plus untuk bisa dapat materi, selain dapat materi, kalian juga akan dapat sertifikat partisipasi yang nantinya juga akan dikirimkan melalui email. Jadi nanti di akhir acara kalian standby dulu aja. Nanti kita tahu caranya supaya kalian bisa mendapatkan materi pagi hari ini dan juga sertifikat yang bisa kalian manfaatkan untuk berbagai macam kegiatan. Oke? Langsung saja kalau gitu kita sapa, sudah bersama kita semua secara online juga karena memang Mr. Darren dari Malang. Good morning Mr. Darren.
Morning, morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Darren?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Okay. How's Malang, Darren?
Cold, very cold.
I'm good also, Mr. Darren. Okay, shall we start, Mr. Darren?
We can, I think.
Okay.
Hold on.
Oke, sekali lagi kalau misalnya nanti teman-teman punya pertanyaan seputar materi yang disampaikan oleh Mr. Darren sebelum kalian lupa atau di slide-slide tertentu yang memang kalian lihat kalian perlu mempertanyakan hal itu, langsung aja ditulis di chat box ya nanti ya. Nanti aku akan bantu menyampaikan dan jangan khawatir karena memang materinya ini disampaikan dengan full bahasa Inggris. Nanti aku akan bantu rekap poin-poin penting dari penyampaiannya Mr. Darren untuk kalian semua. Oke? Time is yours, Mr. Darren.
Okay, thank you, Paddy. Okay, everybody, let's start. I don't know if you joined the other two meetings that we had. If you didn't, I'll just quickly go through the structure of the TOEFL course. It always goes in the same order, by the way. So the first paper that you do is listening. Then you have structure, and then you have reading. The listening doesn't take that long. It's 35 minutes, but there are 50 questions. And I think the most important thing with listening is concentration. Even when I'm doing a TOEFL test or making an answer key for a TOEFL test, I need to rewind it sometimes because I just drift off because there are so many questions. So tip number one is do anything that you can to help your concentration during the test. It's broken down into 3 sections. The first section is the longest. There are 30 short conversations, and it's a few seconds long, literally a few seconds. Then there's part 2, which is 2 longer conversations, and they're about around a minute, and there are 4 questions after each of them. And then there are 3 long talks, and they're around a minute as well. And again, there's 4 questions each. The difference between the long conversations and the long talks is simply that the conversations are between 2 people, and the talks are just 1 person talking. Usually it's kind of a lecture in university. Okay, Farid?
Oke, ini rekap sedikit aja mungkin bagi teman-teman yang baru hadir pagi hari ini. Tadi sudah disampaikan sama Mr. Darren, aku highlight sedikit yang disampaikan sama Mr. Darren bahwa di part listening section ini kalian akan yang lebih dibutuhkan adalah konsentrasinya kalian. Jadi tadi Mr. Darren sempat mengucapkan bahwa kalian boleh melakukan apapun yang membuat kalian supaya kalian tetap fokus untuk mengerjakan listening testnya karena memang kalian butuh konsentrasi penuh di bagian listening ini. Nah, di bagian listening test ini kalian akan menemukan 3 bagian yang berbeda. Ada 30 percakapan singkat, itu hanya beberapa detik, dan itu akan memunculkan 1 pertanyaan setiap kali di setiap contoh conversation-nya. Terus yang kedua ada 2 percakapan yang panjang antara 2 orang. Jadi long conversation sama long talks ini bedanya adalah yang conversation ini antara 2 orang. Jadi percakapan yang panjang kurang lebih 1 menit panjangnya. Dan nanti masing-masing percakapan itu akan ada 4 pertanyaan biasanya. Jadi kesempatan sekali dengar percakapan itu, terus kalian akan menjawab 4 pertanyaan setelahnya. Dan yang terakhir ada 3 pembicaraan yang panjang, bukan pembicaraan antara 2 orang, tapi biasanya ini 1 orang. Biasanya ini menyampaikan topik atau sesuatu yang disampaikan oleh seseorang melalui ya udah rekaman suara aja, dan itu biasanya juga panjangnya 1 menit. Nanti setiap kali rekaman suaranya itu kalian akan menemukan 4 pertanyaan. Jadi sama dengan yang long conversation itu, setiap suaranya sudah diputar atau audionya itu sudah diputar, kalian akan langsung menjawab 4 pertanyaan dalam sekali putar itu tersebut. Oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Thank you. First, I'd like to give you general listening tips for the TOEFL. And it's important to build your vocabulary. The thing is with the listening, often in class I find that when students are getting the answers wrong for listening, when I give them the audio script, they still get the answers wrong. And it's simply because they don't have the vocabulary that they need. So you do need to focus on building your vocabulary, and especially academic English. And what I mean by that is for things like the long talks, it's extracts from a sort of a lecture. So they're obviously using academic English then. But also for the short conversations, they're often talking about things in college and university and that sort of thing. So it helps if you've got that vocabulary there. The next one is to practice as often as possible. I've highlighted often because it's different to practicing as much as possible. What I mean by this is it's better for you to listen to a little bit of English every day rather than a lot of English once a week. Okay, so try and get that regular practice. For note-taking, I've kept this in because some people like to take notes, and I'll talk a bit more about that later when we look at the section 2 and section 3. I don't take notes, and most of my students don't take notes during the listening test, because for some people it's distracting. But if you want to take notes, and if you're the kind of person who it helps, just practice, try different things, different shorthand, and work out for yourself how much you should be writing. By the way, it's not very much, okay? Again, I will come back to that later. Try to listen to a variety of English. So don't just listen to, one particular channel on TV or songs and things like that. Try and get a variety. You get different accents and things like that. And it'll help you, and different types of English as well, different levels of formality. The more variety, the better. However, it is better to focus on TOEFL English. TOEFL English is American English. It's got American accents. All the conversations will have American accents. And the best resource you have really is TOEFL practice online. You can find loads and loads of practice. And listening to that will kind of get your mind into the TOEFL frame. This is one of the most important things, and it's especially for the first part, the short conversations. As I said before about concentration, it's easy to kind of drift off and miss something. When that happens, I've seen students really panic and go, oh my God, I've missed that one. And then they start worrying about it and looking at the answers and thinking, what should I do? And then they miss the next question, and it kind of snowballs from there. It gets worse and worse. So if you miss one or you don't know the answer, don't stress, just mark an answer and move on to the next question. Oh, sorry, I went forward too quickly. Farid?
Oke, dari beberapa tips yang sudah disampaikan sama Mr. Darren ini, saya coba run through beberapa ya. Tadi mungkin yang paling terakhir aku mention lebih awal dulu aja, bahwa biasanya kalau misalnya kalian lagi panik atau lagi ngerjain, apalagi di listening test ini memang butuh tingkat konsentrasi yang tinggi. Pesan yang Mr. Darren adalah kalian nggak perlu panik. Kalau misalnya kalian memang miss di beberapa part, atau mungkin di salah satu sectionnya kalian mungkin, aduh aku tadi kayaknya nggak seberapa ngeh deh dengan apa yang dia sampaikan, itu jangan di skip pertanyaannya. Jadi sebisa mungkin ya udah, apa yang memang kalian pahami, apa yang sudah kalian tangkap, meskipun itu sedikit, atau kalian cuman bisa cap cip cup untuk jawabannya, pokoknya jawab aja. Jangan biarkan lembar jawabanmu itu kosong. Jadi jawab aja, pokoknya jangan panik, apapun yang bisa kalian jawab silakan jawab. Terus tadi yang disampaikan sama Mr. Darren adalah tambah kosakata atau vocabulary di bahasa Inggris, terutama yang berkaitan dengan akademik. Karena tadi sempat di-mention sama Mr. Darren, kalau misalnya kalian tadi ingat bahwa di long talks yang disampaikan sama satu orang dalam rekaman audionya itu biasanya itu berkaitan dengan hal-hal akademik. Jadi ini akan melibatkan banyak sekali vocabulary yang berkaitan dengan hal akademik. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian mau menambah referensi itu mungkin berkaitan dengan tips yang nomor 4. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian punya beberapa sumber untuk latihan listening testnya kalian, sebisa mungkin kalian nggak cuma punya satu sumber, tapi kalian juga punya banyak banget referensi, entah itu website, entah itu berupa podcast, entah itu berupa rekaman audio lain yang misalnya kalian temukan di beberapa website atau dari sources manapun. Kalau bisa kalian nggak cuma punya satu sumber. Jadi kalian juga punya banyak sumber untuk memperbanyak perbendaharaan kata kalian dan untuk mempertajam pemahaman kalian terkait listening atau materi yang disampaikan melalui audio tersebut. Terus latihan sesering mungkin. Nah, ini tadi di-mention sama Mr. Darren bahwa latihan banyak sama latihan sering itu mungkin akan sedikit berbeda. Tadi sempat di-mention sama Mr. Darren bahwa kalau misalnya kalian itu latihan banyak bahasa Inggris tapi intensitasnya itu cuma seminggu sekali, itu akan berbeda dengan kalau misalnya kalian itu latihannya meskipun singkat, cuman itu rutin setiap hari. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian melakukan latihannya itu setiap hari dan itu rutin, itu akan sangat membantu dibandingkan kalian cuma latihannya seminggu sekali tapi langsung dengan porsi yang besar. Jadi itu akan sangat membantu. Dan sekali lagi kita kasih highlight bahwa TOEFL ini pakai aksen Amerika. Jadi untuk memperbanyak perbendaharaan kata kalian atau pemahaman kalian tentang listening testnya ini, kalian mungkin bisa cari referensi yang memang di situ rekaman audionya menggunakan aksen Amerika. Itu akan sangat membantu dengan kalian. Oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Okay, thank you, Farid. The next thing I want to look at is some common questions that come up in the short conversations. When I say common, by the way, it doesn't mean that you'll get lots of these in your test. What it means is that you're almost certain to get one of each of them, maybe more than one, but you nearly always get one of them, of each of these. So we're going to look at these in a little bit of detail. And the reason that I want to focus on them is because when you know about these questions, they're very easy to pick up on. And you can listen to the conversation and you know exactly what they're trying to do and how they might be trying to trick you. And you almost certainly know the answer. And that's really helpful for the short conversations, because remember, there are 30 in a row and it's quite draining and all your concentration is there. And then if you can get a question type that you understand clearly and go, oh yeah, I know that, it can help you to relax and focus for the rest of the test. Sorry, hold on, let me check the chat. Risky, I'll answer your question later. Okay. The first type is idiomatic agreement. What I mean by this is ways of agreeing with someone that don't necessarily sound like they're agreeing with you. And I've got 3 of them here. You can say that again, okay? And in the conversations that have somebody saying that, I guarantee you one of the answers will be something to the effect of, he wants the woman to repeat what she said, or something like that. Because that's kind of what it sounds like. However, it's just saying, yes, I agree with you. 2 other ways that they use a lot is, I'll say, okay? And the intonation is always like that, I'll say, really stressed, okay? And again, it just means yes. And then this last one down here, isn't it though? It doesn't have to be isn't it? It's anything which sounds like a question tag like that. For example, don't they though? Wouldn't you though? That sort of thing. And whenever you hear those at the end, it's just, again, somebody agreeing with what the other person said. When you see a question like that, the correct answer is usually phrased something like, he agrees with the woman, or he agrees with what the woman said. Okay. They're weird, but once you've learned them and once you've got them in your mind, and again, if you do a lot of practice tests, you'll hear them quite a lot. As soon as you hear that in the conversation, you can just relax and go, yeah, where does it say agree? Okay. The second one is expressions of surprise. And these rely quite a lot on, basically, the words they stress in the sentence. If you look at the first one, so you did blah, 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 blah. For example, so you did join the TOEFL meeting on Tuesday. Now, as soon as you hear that, it suggests that the person didn't expect you to, okay? Didn't expect the person to join the TOEFL meeting. And that means, you know, how can I put this? The question will be, what had the man assumed, or what did the woman assume? And again, when you hear that, you just need to go for the opposite of what happened. So for example, oh, that was a really interesting TOEFL meeting on Saturday. Oh, so you did join the meeting. What had the woman assumed? The man did not join the meeting. It's that simple. You just look for the opposite. One other thing they do to help with the expressions of surprise sometimes is put after all at the end of it. And if you hear that, again, it means, oh, I didn't expect that. Okay. Sorry, let me check chat again. Okay. The last one, and one that we'll look at in a moment, is confusing negatives. There are a lot of negatives in the listening, and we all know how to make negatives, you know, don't, can't, doesn't, not, that sort of thing. And they're not confusing on their own. But the ones that are the following ones. The first one is double negatives, okay? And I know people in English have said, don't use double negatives, but we actually use them all the time. Here we've got not, which makes it negative, and im, which is a negative prefix. Okay, so double negatives make a positive. Not impossible means possible. Okay, not unhappy means happy. So the first one is double negatives. Sorry, Farid, I've got a lot for you to translate. The next one, the next one is inverting things after negatives. Never have I seen such an interesting show. Means that is the most interesting show you've ever seen. It's not confusing with the negative, but it's a confusing way of structuring the sentence. And they nearly always put one of these in. Don't let it confuse you, basically. Never have I seen it means I have never seen it. It's that simple. And the last one is negatives with comparatives. And these are confusing. They're so confusing, they confuse native speakers sometimes. So we'll look at those next. Okay, Farid?
Oke, jadi beberapa hal ini yang disampaikan sama Mr. Darren ini adalah mungkin hal-hal yang tricky yang akan kalian temukan di listening section. Tadi aku sempat catat beberapa hal, tapi mungkin kalau misalnya di sini ada teman-teman yang mungkin lebih paham untuk bisa menjelaskannya, juga bisa bantu untuk menjelaskannya di kolom chat box. Tapi salah satunya adalah yang aku highlight tadi, masalah confusing negatif. Confusing negatif ini biasanya nanti kalian akan ngerasa bingung karena kalian akan menemukan ada beberapa kata yang menurut kalian itu kayak contohnya kalimat yang satu itu, it's not impossible, kayak oke, ini kayak jawabannya berarti nggak mungkin. Padahal itu menurut yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren tadi adalah sebenarnya artinya itu possible gitu. Jadi itu nggak apa-apa. Terus kayak tadi misalnya never have I, itu kalau misalnya kalian, karena memang ada kalimat negatif di situ, maka kita akan beranggapan kalau diartikan secara general atau diartikan secara umum berarti hal itu adalah tidak. Hal yang menyatakan tidak. Cuma tadi sempat di-mention sama Mr. Darren, padahal artinya bukan seperti itu. Never have itu maksudnya kayak yang aku nggak pernah ngeliat hal yang kayak ini loh, which is itu bagus yang kayak gitu. Terus tadi masalah idiomatic agreement, kalian juga akan dibuat bingung kalau misalnya padahal jawabannya itu basically dari 3 contoh kalimat yang dikasih di atas itu semuanya menyatakan bahwa dia setuju dengan pendapat yang disampaikan gitu. Jadi nanti kalian akan dibuat lebih sering dibuat, atau kalian akan merasa bahwa hal tersebut adalah tricky, atau kalian akan berpikir untuk menjawab sesuatu yang mungkin berseberangan dengan kalian tentukan. Jadi si confusing negatif ini biasanya akan membingungkan kalian jika diartikan secara general. Tapi kalau yang idiomatic agreement itu biasanya basically kata-kata yang seperti itu yang nanti disebutkan di dalam audio itu memang biasanya dia setuju dengan pengungkapannya. Dan biasanya pertanyaan yang sering muncul adalah apakah memang orang tersebut itu sebenarnya setuju atau enggak dengan hal yang disampaikan oleh teman bicaranya. Biasanya seperti itu. Kalau yang masalah expressions of surprise, biasanya itu menanyakan terkait sebenarnya ekspresi yang tadi diberikan atau ditunjukkan oleh seseorang di dalam kedua percakapan itu dia menjelaskan tentang apa sih. Kayak tadi misalnya contoh kalimat yang pertama, so you did bla bla bla. Tadi kan Mr. Darren ngasih contoh kalau kamu kemarin ikut tes TOEFL-nya ya? Atau tadi pertanyaan kalau nggak salah gimana, terus akhirnya jawabannya itu atau si teman ngobrolnya itu jawab, oh kamu kemarin jadinya ikut gitu. Jadi kayak seolah-olah teman ngobrolnya itu berekspektasi bahwa harusnya kamu kemarin nggak ikut yang kayak gitu. Jadi kamu harus benar-benar bisa mencerna percakapan tersebut itu tadinya ngarahnya kemana. Biasanya pertanyaannya nanti itu akan diarahkan kira-kira menjawab pertanyaan itu sebenarnya ekspektasinya apa sih, kurang lebih seperti itu. Back to you, Mr.
Okay, thank you. So as I said, we'll have a look quickly now, negatives with comparatives. I said these are confusing. They can even be confusing when they're written down. Okay, so I've put some here for you. Hold on, let me move this ribbon. Okay. I couldn't be happier. No one feels as bad as me. I've never felt better, blah, blah, blah. And what I'd like to do is we'll go through them and you just type in the chat box whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, so if I say I'm happy, that's a good thing. If I say I'm sad, that's a bad thing. So let's look at the first one. I couldn't be happier. Is that good or bad?
Nah, oke, kita latihan yang masalah tadi contoh yang terakhir ya. Menurut kalian kalau misalnya kalian artikan itu secara sekilas, menurut kalian I couldn't be happier itu sebenarnya happy atau enggak? Hah? Happy. I couldn't be happier.
Most good and happy, some bad, some bad. Oh, more bads now. We go, oh, okay, it's about 50-50 actually. I did say they were confusing. All right, let's take a look. I couldn't be happier means happy. It means
Happy.
good. In fact, it means super happy. It is as happy
Oke.
as you could possibly be.
Ya, karena kayaknya kita kejebak sama di I couldn't be happier itu ya, di couldn't itu tadi. Next, Mr. Darren.
Okay. The next one, I've never felt better. I've never felt better. Is that good or bad?
Menurut kalian itu good atau bad?
Okay, almost everybody's saying good for this one. So let's take a look. Yes, absolutely right. If you've never felt better than you feel now, this is the best that you've ever felt. And going back to the first one, if you couldn't be happier, it means you are as happy as it is possible for you to be. Okay, you're top of the happiness charts. Let's have a look at one or two of the other ones first. Never have I felt so bad. Okay, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yang ketiga, never
have I felt so bad.
Apa menurutmu?
Okay. Mostly bad. One or two good, mostly bad. Okay, let's take a look. If you put bad, you're absolutely right. If you look at that one, remember with those that were weird negatives, so never have I. Just think of it as I have never. Okay, so I have never felt so bad. Again, that means that now you feel as bad as you have ever felt. Okay, it's a really strong expression. I'll go through the others quite quickly, and you can just answer yourselves. Don't worry about the chat box, just to save time. So I couldn't be more upset. If you think of I couldn't be happier, I couldn't be more upset, is a bad thing. Okay. No one feels as bad as me. Bad thing. You feel the worst out of everybody. Here's a weird one. I couldn't have been less happy. Okay. I couldn't have been less happy. You can. I might go on. Type your answers in the chat box. I'm interested. I couldn't have been less happy. Is this good or bad?
Good. I think.
Okay, we've got some bad, mostly bad, some good. Oh no, 50-50 again. Goods and bad. I couldn't have been less happy is bad again.
Oh.
Okay. Don't worry, I'll look at them in a bit of detail in a moment. Seldom have I felt so good is happy. And no one is more upset than me is sad. Okay. Now I'll quickly chat about why some of them are tricky like this. I couldn't have been less happy. If you compare that with the first one, it's the opposite of the first one. I couldn't be happier. I couldn't have been less happy. Okay, so it's the exact opposite of this one. And the first one, I couldn't be happier, literally means you are the happiest that you could be. And I'll say it again. If you've got negative with this comparative, it makes it the happiest. It makes it the superlative. Okay, sorry, that sounds very grammary, I know. But basically, it makes it the number one. It makes it the top. Okay. I couldn't be happier. You're the happiest you could be. I couldn't have been less happy. You are the least happy that you could be. Okay. The other ones, I think, hopefully a little bit easier. No one feels as bad as me. No one is more upset than me. Means that everybody else is happier than you. Okay. And I couldn't be more upset is very similar to I couldn't have been less happy, because more upset is like being less happy. Okay. The important thing to take from this, if it's difficult to follow the meaning, is if you hear a negative with a comparative, it makes it a superlative. Okay. So not with happier equals happiest. Okay. I hope that's clear. Never with better makes the best. Okay, this is the best feeling. Okay, go for that, Farid. Good luck.
Okay, one thing I highlight here is, jadi kalau misalnya kalian nemukan negatif dengan komparatif, maka dia akan jadinya superlatif. Jadi kayak tadi contohnya I couldn't be happier di situ, otomatis di situ jadinya happiest. But can I make it simple with the things that I understand, Mr. Darren?
Absolutely.
For example, like I couldn't be happier means there is negative, and with the good things in behind of the at the end of the sentences means it's good. If we find the negative and something with come up with the bad things, that's mean bad. Is that true with my logical things?
It's true with these examples because they've got comparatives. Okay, it's important to stress that it's only with comparatives. So if it said I couldn't be happy, that's not good. Okay, I couldn't be happier. Yeah, that's really good.
Okay, so back to the okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, jadi kalau misalnya tadi seperti yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren, kalau misalnya negatif sama komparatif maka relatif. Dengan beberapa contoh tadi, mungkin kalian kalau misalnya masih ngerasa agak bingung dengan hal yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren itu, kalian bisa langsung cantumkan aja di kolom chat box. Nanti kita akan coba bahas lagi sama Mr. Darren kayak tadi, karena memang contoh yang dikasih Mr. Darren seperti ini, jadi logika yang muncul di aku seperti itu. Kalau misalnya kalian mengalami kesulitan untuk bisa menemukan artinya seperti apa. Cuman memang dengan contoh-contoh yang seperti ini, tadi Mr. Darren sempat memperjelas bahwa ya, itu mungkin bisa terjadi dengan contoh yang seperti ini dan logika yang muncul di aku, maka itu bisa saja terjadi. Cuman kalau misalnya nanti ada case-case yang lain, itu mungkin akan bisa jadi jawaban yang berbeda. Oke, Reski mungkin masih bingung ya, nanti kita akan coba jelaskan lagi. Jadi cuman mungkin dengan contoh yang seperti ini tadi, mungkin sedikit penjelasan dari Mr. Darren tadi bisa seperti itu. Jadi satu hal yang saya highlight tadi adalah kalau misalnya negatif ketemunya dengan komparatif, maka jadinya akan superlatif atau menjadi sesuatu yang baik. Kurang lebih mungkin seperti itu. Mr. Darren? You're mute, Mr. Darren.
There we go. I found my unmute button. A lot of people are still confused, so hopefully we'll have some time at the end and I'll go into what it means. Seldom means rarely, or with an American accent, rarely.
Okay. Oh, rarely. Jarang.
Jarang, apparently. Oh, I'm like,
jarang.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm learning Indonesian. Okay, I'll try and save some time at the end and we can answer some of the questions that have come up already, and I'll go into this a little bit, maybe using a whiteboard, okay?
Dijelasin lagi ya, teman-teman yang masih bingung untuk menjelaskan hal masalah negatif distinct ini ya. Nanti akan dijelaskan lagi sama Mr. Darren kalau kita masih punya cukup waktu. Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Okay, thank you. But first, let's actually have some listening practice. The first thing I'll give you is some general tips for section A. Section A is the short conversations, okay? And you'll see that I've got quite a lot of tips here, but honestly, they're basically the same tip. The first one, look for restatements. A restatement is a different way of saying something, okay? The answer will usually paraphrase what you hear on the audio. What I mean by that is it won't use the same words. So if you look at the second one, answers which contain a lot of the words that you heard are usually wrong. You should be looking for answers which contain synonyms of what the speakers said, okay? Not the same words, words which have the same meaning. Okay, and I know that's all the same kind of tip, but it's really important. And it's actually really difficult to train yourself not to fall into these traps that they set. Okay, they'll often have wrong answers that look almost exactly like what you heard. And if you see those, you should know that they're wrong. But it's really tempting just to go, oh yeah, that's very similar to what I heard. Yes, that's correct. Don't do that. Okay. If you have no idea, it was completely confusing and you've no idea what the conversation meant really, then choose the answer sounds most different from the audio. Choose the answer with the fewest words that were on the audio. Okay. And while I'm saying that, if you have no idea, please never leave an answer blank. If you can't find the answer that sounds the most different from the audio, pick one anyway. Just get A. A. Why not A? Just choose A. Okay.
Oke, jadi tips yang diberikan sama Mr. Darren di section A ini general tipsnya. Ini kenapa akhirnya kalian itu sangat perlu dan penting untuk menambah vocabulary kalian. Karena dari beberapa hal yang aku highlight dari penjelasan yang Mr. Darren di ITP Listening section A ini di general tipsnya adalah ini sering banget terjadi kalau misalnya kalian ngedengerin salah satu recording audio di listening section tes apapun itu. Ketika kalian mendengarkan mungkin ada satu kata kunci, terus kalian melihat jawaban di lembar soal gitu ya, terus kalian melihat bahwa kata-kata itu disebut di audio recording tadi, maka kalian akan berpikir bahwa oke, ini jawabannya. Oke, tadi di situ dikasih highlight sama Mr. Darren bahwa coba cari jawaban yang punya sinonim dari apa yang disampaikan sama speakernya. Jadi jangan kalau misalnya kalian akan menjawab pertanyaan tersebut yang mengandung kata-kata yang sama seperti yang kalian dengar di listening audionya, itu biasanya itu salah. Jadi biasakan kalian, inilah kenapa kalian akhirnya harus punya banyak perbendaraan kata baru, apalagi masalah sinonim, supaya kalian bisa benar-benar menemukan apa yang dimaksud oleh speaker di recording audionya itu tadi. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian benar-benar buntu, benar-benar nggak tahu jawabannya apa, again ini masih jadi optional ya. Kalau misalnya kalian benar-benar nggak tahu harus jawab apa, coba cari jawaban yang memang menurut kalian itu terlihat sedikit berbeda dari audionya. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian menemukan, itu akan terlihat sangat menggoda kalian untuk bisa menjawab bahwa kata-kata yang ada di jawaban itu sama dengan apa yang ada di audio. Tapi biasanya itu kemungkinan besar adalah salah. Cuman kalau misalnya kalian benar-benar nggak punya gambaran atau benar-benar buntu atau udah dead end sama sekali nggak tahu jawabannya, pokoknya jangan pernah meninggalkan lembar jawaban kalian kosong. Oke? Udah cacip-cup aja pilih A, B, C, atau D, terus kalian jawab deh jawabannya apa. Pokoknya jangan sampai biarkan itu kosong. Oke? Back to you, Mr.
Okay.
Darren.
Thank you. What I'd like to do now is have a little bit of practice. Okay, it's only 4 questions. It's from a real TOEFL test, and I would just like to make sure that everybody mutes themselves and I'll mute myself as well,
Okay.
because we're going to play the audio and I need everyone to hear it. All I want you to do is type your answers into the chat box. You can just type like 12C, 13B, whatever. Okay. And listen to the audio, listen to the question, look at the answers, type your answer in the chat box. Okay.
Oke, ini audionya akan sedikit lebih kecil, teman-teman, karena memang kita ambil dari real tes TOEFL-nya. Jadi di sini aku sama Mr. Darren akan mute untuk sementara waktu. Kalian bisa gedein volumenya terlebih dahulu untuk ngedengerin audionya. Setelah itu kalian bisa langsung jawab pertanyaannya nomor 12, 13, sama 14. Jadi ini basically karena memang tidak ada pertanyaan yang tertulis, biasanya kalian mendengarkan sambil menjawab pertanyaannya. Jadi nanti kalian bisa langsung cantumin jawabannya di chat box, nanti kita bahas ya, oke? Kali ini aku mute dulu. Mr. Darren, let's play the audio.
Number 12. The traffic outside is really loud.
I'll say.
What does the woman mean? Number 13.
Have you seen the headlines yet today?
I haven't had a chance to read a word.
What are they probably discussing? Number 14. I'm not ready yet, and it's going to take me a while longer.
You'd better hurry. Take 5 minutes too long and you'll miss the bus.
What does the woman mean? Number 15.
I think it's impossible for me to pass this class.
You should never say impossible.
What does the man mean?
Okay. I was watching your answers as they came through, and most of them are very good. But before I go through the answers, I'm going to show you the scripts. Okay, so you can have a look, and then maybe you want to change the answer, maybe you don't. Let's have a look. Okay, this is number 12, and I think everybody, absolutely everybody, got this correct. So well done, because we just looked at it. Okay. The man says the traffic outside is really loud, and the woman goes, I'll say. Remember, that's one of those idiomatic expressions of agreement. And instantly you know your answer will have agree in it. So your answer is C. Well done. The next one, we had lots of different answers. Okay, so let's have a look at the audio. Have you seen the headlines yet today? I haven't had a chance to read a word. Now, if anybody wants to change their answer, feel free to put it in the chat box.
Ada mau ganti jawabannya nggak? Nomor 13. Still D.
Still D?
Yeah.
1 or 2 B's and C's? Okay, good. The answer is D, absolutely. And I think here there are 2 things that I should mention. First of all, when I say build your vocabulary, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. You know, if you got this question wrong after reading it, then it's not about your listening skills, it's about your vocabulary, okay? And basically you need to know headlines. What are headlines? Headlines are the things in newspapers that tell you what the story is about, okay? And that's why D is correct. If you don't know what it means very well, the best thing to do, again, is to try and find ones that don't use the same words. So B is probably not the right answer because it's got the word headlines, it's got the word chance, okay? And both of those words are in the audio. It's probably the wrong answer. If you look at the correct answer, D, the daily newspaper, none of that is in the audio, okay? And that's what I mean about them trying to trick you. If you're not sure, go for the answers that look the most different from what you actually, the words you actually heard on the audio.
Oke, jadi ini yang dijelasin sama Mr. Darren tadi ya, teman-teman ya, bahwa tadi kita sempat mention bahwa jangan pernah memilih jawaban yang kalian kira kata-kata yang disebutkan di audio itu ada di pilihan jawabannya. Jadi kalau misalnya tadi sempat di-mention sama Mr. Darren untuk ningkatin vocabulary kalian, kalau misalnya di sini kalian posisinya adalah kurang mengetahui bahwa headline yang dimaksud itu adalah judul yang biasanya ada di koran untuk kalian baca, maka mungkin kalian akan memilih jawabannya adalah B, padahal jawabannya bukan B. Atau mungkin kalian bisa jadi untuk menyamakan hal tersebut, kalian akan berpikir bahwa jawabannya adalah A. Padahal yang sedang dibahas dan sedang diskusikan oleh kedua orang tersebut di dalam percakapan adalah the daily newspaper. Gitu. Jadi sekali lagi kalau misalnya kalian benar-benar nggak paham dan nggak ngerti atau lagi benar-benar buntu jawabannya apa, udah pilih aja menurut kalian sangat jauh berbeda dengan apa yang ada di recording audionya. Itu bisa jadi jawabannya. Cuman sekali lagi jangan pernah memilih jawaban yang menurut kalian itu ada kata-kata yang sama disebutkan dengan yang ada di audio recordingnya. Oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Okay, thank you. I saw someone in the chat box said, I missed the question. And if you mean you missed the conversation, for some reason, maybe a car drives past or something like that, then there is no way of looking at it and thinking, wait, I don't know which words sound most different because I didn't hear them. Yeah, there's nothing you can do. You just guess, okay? Don't leave it blank. Go for A or B or whatever your lucky letter is. All right. Let's look at the next 2. Question 14, the man said, "I'm not ready yet, and it's going to take me a while longer." And the woman said, "You'd better hurry. Take 5 minutes too long, and you'll miss the bus." Now, most of you got the answer correct. Most of you, not all of you, but most of you. The correct answer is C. Okay, the man doesn't have time to waste. But I really want to use this as, I think it's the best example of going for the answer that doesn't contain those words. If you look at the wrong answers, we've got bus, we've got 5 minutes. B, we've got bus, 5 minutes. D, we've got bus, 5 minutes. And in the audio, we have 5 minutes, bus. Okay? That's why all of those are wrong. The correct answer is the man doesn't have time to waste. And I don't think they have any of the same words. They don't even have the word time in there.
No.
Okay. So that's the correct answer. If you didn't understand the meaning very well, doesn't matter, go for C. All right. And the last one, I think everyone got correct. I think it's impossible for me to pass this class. Never say impossible, meaning always possible. Okay. It's just one of those weird double negatives.
Oke, jadi aku rekap sedikit ya. Nomor 14 tadi, ini sama kasusnya dengan yang ada di nomor 13. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian berpikir bahwa mungkin secara general kalau misalnya kalian ngelihat pilihan jawabannya antara A, B, sama D, kemungkinan kalau misalnya kita lihat sekilas adalah C ini mungkin adalah jawaban yang salah. Karena dari keempat jawaban itu yang mengandung kata-kata yang sama yang disebutkan dengan audio adalah A, B, sama D. Which is di situ ada 5 minutes sama ada bus. Jadi kalian akan memikir atau mengira bahwa jawabannya antara mengira bahwa jawabannya antara A, B, atau D. Padahal mungkin kalau misalnya kalian sama atau menggunakan konsep yang sama seperti yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren bahwa udah pilih aja di situ jawabannya yang sangat berbeda dengan apa yang ada di audio. Jadi jawabannya C. Karena memang artinya basically kalau misalnya kalian tahu si perempuan itu kan bilang kamu kayaknya harus cepat-cepat ya karena kamu cuma punya waktu 5 menit sebelum kamu ketinggalan bisnya. Jadi ya udah di situ berarti si cowok ini bener-bener nggak punya waktu lagi untuk bener-bener dibuang. Jadi harus cepat-cepat yang kayak gitu. Oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Thank you. I'm gonna just talk basically a little bit about note-taking and about strategies for the longer sections, the longer conversations and the longer talks. I'm not going to do practice because I'd like to save some time just to answer 1 or 2 questions we had and go over that confusing thing. But for note-taking, ETS, who make the TOEFL test, seem a little bit ambiguous. In the official regulations, it says this: you cannot bring scratch paper into the testing room or make notes on the answer sheets. What they mean by answer sheets are those sheets of paper with little circles where you mark A, B, C, or D. However, you can take notes in the blank areas of the test books during the listening parts of the test. The test books are the bits with the answers written in them. So you can take notes, okay? The reason I'm a little bit hesitant to recommend taking notes, well, there are 2 reasons actually. 1, for some people it's distracting. And 2, if you're doing the test at a center where they have their own ITP test or something like that, they might have their own regulations. So absolutely check with the officials at the center and make sure that it's okay before you take notes, okay? Also, it can be useful for sections B and C. Definitely do not take notes for those short conversations. You've seen how short they are. You don't need to take notes, I promise. If you choose to take notes, if you want to take them, use shorthand. What I mean by shorthand is little codes. Don't worry about spelling, grammar, that sort of thing. And only key points, 1 word here, 1 word there for information. For conversations, one thing that you can do is just draw a line down the paper. And there are 2 people, so write what one person says on the left and what the other person says on the right. And it makes it much easier to follow your notes. And ideas are generally more important than details, okay? But when you're doing the notes, whatever you think you need to remember, just note it down in 1 word. I'm not going to give you practice taking notes. I am going to give you an alternative to taking notes. When you're listening to the long conversations, what you have in front of you is the answers, okay? And it's really useful while you're listening to the conversation to just have your eyes on the answers, because a lot of these detailed answers, you'll hear them in the audio and then you can relate them to what they're talking about. Especially if there are things like numbers, you might have one, just answer A is one number, B is another number, C is another number, and D is another number. And maybe all of the numbers are in the audio. And if you're not taking notes and you don't look at those numbers while you're listening, it can be really easy to confuse them. But if you're looking at the numbers, then as you're listening, you think, oh, there were 67 people. Okay, there were 60. That's the people who went to the event. And you can relate those numbers to whatever they're talking about. And just doing that while you're listening to the audio can help you to quite often choose the correct answer before you've even heard the question. Okay, sorry, that was a bit flannelly. Go on, Farid. Good luck.
Oke, ini buat teman-teman yang mungkin baru aja tahu ya bahwa ITS atau salah satu lembaga resmi yang memang melaksanakan tes TOEFL itu biasanya itu punya regulasi tertentu untuk kalian bisa taking notes atau note taking. Jadi hal yang tadi dikasih highlight oleh Mr. Darren adalah kalian perlu memastikan dulu regulasinya seperti apa terkait note taking. Tadi sempat aku catat di sini dua hal yang mungkin sedikit kurang disarankan oleh Mr. Darren. Kenapa akhirnya note taking itu sebenarnya kurang disarankan untuk bisa dilakukan di listening test. Yang pertama, kadang itu akan ngedistract kalian. Jadi bukannya kalian bisa mendapatkan informasi atau bisa langsung menjawab pertanyaan yang memang sudah ada di lembar jawaban, karena basically nanti di long conversation ini kalian bener-bener langsung diputerin audio dan ya udah langsung sama ada jawabannya itu yang bisa kalian pilih berdasarkan dari audio yang kalian dengar. Jadi ketika kalian note taking, kalian ditakutkan nanti akan ngedistract, kalian terlalu fokus untuk nulis apa yang kalian dengar dibandingkan langsung menjawab pertanyaan yang memang jawabannya sudah ada di situ sambil kalian ngedengerin. Yang kedua adalah masalah regulasi. Kadang itu jadi kayak itu di sebelah kanan, di row setelah anak panah oranye itu, biasanya itu ITS regulation-nya kalian nggak boleh bikin note taking, nggak boleh bawa scratch paper atau bawa kertas terpisah di ruangan test room untuk apa ya, taking note biasanya. Tapi biasanya kalian diizinkan untuk bisa tulis atau bikin note di lembar soalnya di textbooknya during listening test itu, tapi di bagian yang kosong. Jadi kalian harus benar-benar cek dulu regulasinya seperti apa, apakah kalian benar-benar bisa melakukan note taking atau enggak. Kalau memang itu bisa dilakukan, kalian cek lagi apakah itu memang bisa dilakukan di kertas terpisah yang kalian bawa, atau kalau misalnya kalian boleh melakukan itu, di mana aku boleh melakukan hal tersebut. Jadi kalian perlu pastikan itu dulu aja. Terus kalau misalnya kalian mau bikin, kalau di bagian-bagian yang short, listening yang conversation-nya itu pendek, tadi Mr. Darren menyarankan kalian nggak perlu note taking, sebenarnya kalian akan sangat mudah untuk dipahami, untuk bisa langsung jawab karena memang percakapannya singkat. Tapi kalau memang kalian perlu untuk mencatat hal tersebut, catat aja sesuai dengan apa yang kalian pahami. Jadi nggak perlu bingung masalah grammarnya, kalian nggak perlu bingung masalah ejaannya itu benar apa enggak. Pokoknya udah itu catatan pribadimu aja buat kalian bisa benar-benar dapetin informasi yang kalian perlu. Jadi kalian harus ngambil key points-nya itu seperti apa untuk kalian catat. Jadi nggak perlu ngerekap semuanya di kertas yang kalian sediakan itu. Terus kalau misalnya untuk yang percakapan, mungkin kalian bisa gunakan kayak ambil garis tengah gitu, terus kalian bisa ambil kalau misalnya memang ada cewek sama cowok, kalian tulis yang cewek sebelah sini, kalian tulis yang cowok sebelah sini. Key information-nya aja, jadi kalian bisa langsung cari, oke, ini tadi yang diucapin sama cowoknya, ini yang diucapin sama cewek. Jadi kalian benar-benar bisa go through dan run through langsung untuk bisa menjawab pertanyaannya. Kurang lebih seperti itu, oke? Dan tadi dijelaskan tips yang terakhir itu adalah ide utama itu paling penting daripada kalian harus membuat detailnya seperti apa. Supaya kalian juga bisa punya banyak waktu untuk menjawab pertanyaan yang sudah disediakan dengan waktu yang sudah disediakan juga oleh penyelenggara tesnya. Oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment because I don't want to give you any spoilers. Oh, we've only got 5 minutes. In that case, let's just go through the questions that came up that I didn't answer. If you typed a question in the chat box and I didn't answer it, feel free to type it back in now. The one that I remember, I believe, was where can you get TOEFL resources from? Someone was asking TOEFL listening resources. Where can you get them from? Honestly, just go to Google and type TOEFL ITP. It's important to put TOEFL ITP. Okay, otherwise you'll get lots of TOEFL IBT listenings. But if you put TOEFL ITP practice, one of the first things you'll see is the ETS website, and that's their official practice stuff that you can use. Lots of other schools have their own practice stuff as well. YouTube, you can find quite a lot of practice tests. In fact, I think some of them are actual tests. There's loads. Honestly, just Google TOEFL ITP listening practice, and I can't even think of the big enough word for how much stuff there is out there. Okay. The best one to go to, first of all, is ETS, but there's not that much practice there. But that's the official practice that you can get. After that, just, browse around. Any other questions that I haven't answered?
I think the one that we still get confused about the negative things.
Negative and
Mr.
comparatives,
Darren?
yeah, good,
Yeah.
okay. I'm going to try and share my screen with a whiteboard if I can find it. Okay, there we go.
Oke, sambil Mr. Darren ini tadi kalau misalnya kalian sempat cari referensinya seperti apa, sebenarnya banyak ya. Kalian bisa Google itu, nanti biasanya kalian juga bisa langsung diarahkan ke website resminya ITS, di mana memang itu penyelenggara resminya TOEFL. Tulis aja di situ listening, contoh listening test ITP, biar kalian bisa menemukan resources yang jelas, atau di YouTube juga sudah banyak. Jadi kalian juga bisa banyak menemukan contoh-contoh listening test untuk latihan, atau kayaknya banyak banget platform, website, apapun itu kalian bisa cari. Again, perbanyak aja referensinya kalian untuk latihan, jadi nggak berasal dari satu sumber aja untuk kalian latihan, oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Okay, thank you. Forgive me, I am terrible with Zoom's whiteboard, but I'll give it a go. I can make, oh, there we go. There, I've made an arrow. I'm so proud of myself. All right. We go. So let's say this arrow is your happiness meter. Okay. This is your happiness meter. So 100%, that's ultra happy. 0%, ultra sad. Okay. If you say, I couldn't be happier, that puts you up here. It puts you on 100%. Because if, let's say I'm at 80% happiness. Hold on, I'm trying to draw another arrow now. Bear with me. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's a line. Never mind. You know what I mean. So let's say this is how happy you are. You're 80% happy. Then you could be happier. It's possible to be happier than 80%. There's still 20% to go. If you're at 0%, you could definitely be happier. Okay? But if you're at 100%, it's impossible to be happier. Therefore, you couldn't be happier. That's why when you use these negatives with comparatives, it gives you this superlative meaning. Hold on, I'm just reading the other ones. Okay, I'll answer those in a second. For more on this, if you look at this sentence, okay, this is something that I hear quite a lot, and people go crazy about this on the internet. Grammar people like me probably going crazy about it because it's wrong. Well, it's not wrong. It just doesn't mean what people want it to mean. When you don't care about something, you can say this sentence. Okay. I couldn't care less. Because that means, oh, can I move this? Yes, there we go. I couldn't care less means that you are at 0 for caring. Okay, it is now impossible for you to care less. If you say, I could care less, it means you're not at zero. You're anywhere above zero. Here now, 50-50, yes, I could care less. It's possible to care less. Okay. And the reason I mention this is if you want lots of people trying to explain this to you, you can go online and just type in Google, I could care less, and you'll get lots of people arguing about how it's a terrible thing to say. Because of this, saying I could care less means that you care. Saying you couldn't care less means that you don't care at all because you're at zero already. Okay. Do you want to try and explain that, Patty?
I don't think so. Jadi kurang lebih seperti yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren ya. Cuman kalau tadi misalnya dijelaskan perkara negatif sama komparatif, again seperti yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren di awal tadi, itu akan jadinya seperti jadi kayak misalnya satu contohnya itu aku dan be happy, ya udah kalian ada di atas itu, yang benar-benar ngejelasin bahwa kamu benar-benar happy masalah itu. Terus tadi itu Mr. Darren itu sempat mention ada satu frasa atau kalimat yang ini tuh sering kali itu diucapkan sama banyak orang, yaitu I could care less. Itu biasanya itu artinya itu nggak seperti apa yang orang-orang mau gitu loh. Maksudnya itu kayak mungkin ekspektasinya dari aku sendiri tuh kayak aku udah bener-bener nggak peduli, mungkin maksudnya kayak gitu, padahal maksudnya itu bukan kayak gitu. Jadi kalau misalnya kamu benar-benar ingin mengungkapkan bahwa kamu benar-benar tidak peduli, maka kalimat yang benar-benar bisa digunakan adalah I couldn't care less. Itu benar-benar kayak udah itu di bawah banget, 0% banget. Tapi kalau misalnya kamu pakai frasa atau kalimat yang I could care less, itu berarti bisa ada di atas 0%. Nah itu di 50-50, pokoknya masih ada di atas 0 kapasitasnya. Jadi kalau misalnya kalian browsing masalah itu, ini tuh kalimat yang sering banget diperdebatkan bahwa artinya memang seperti itu, tapi ada orang-orang juga yang menjelaskan bahwa artinya bukan itu. Nah ini yang dijelasin sama Mr. Darren tadi. Jadi kalau kamu benar-benar menerangkan bahwa kamu tidak peduli dengan hal tersebut, maka kamu menggunakan I couldn't care less gitu. Cuman konsep masalah yang negatif dengan komparatif tadi kurang lebih sama seperti yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren, bahwa contoh kalimat itu menggambarkan bahwa ya udah kalian ada di posisi yang benar-benar ada di top, bahwa kalian benar-benar happy. Back to Mr. Darren.
Okay. There's one or two other questions here. First of all, which one do I have to take for my future career, TOEFL, IBT, or ITB? That depends what you want to do with your career. Generally, IBT is more acceptable abroad in places like America. ITP is more acceptable here in Indonesia. So it depends what you want to do.
Oke, ini kalau
sorry.
Oke.
Yeah. Go ahead.
IBT sama ITP ya, ini tergantung dari next step-nya kalian. Jadi kalau misalnya nanti let's say kalian mau masuk universitas atau mau apply sesuatu, kalian juga perlu make sure dulu yang jadi syarat untuk bisa dilampirkan terkait kemampuan bahasa Inggris kalian itu biasanya di-mention kok. Apakah memang kebutuhannya itu TOEFL ITP atau IBT. Jadi biasanya itu tergantung dari, kalau misalnya universitas, kalian cek dulu ke instansinya, sertifikat apa yang dibutuhkan, bisa jadi IELTS, bisa jadi TOEFL bisa jadi IBT atau ITP. Kalau misalnya kalian mau kerja atau apply kemanapun itu, kalian juga perlu make sure. Tapi biasanya kalau di Indonesia, rata-rata kebutuhannya itu di ITP. Masih jarang ada yang minta syarat TOEFL IBT itu sebagai persyaratan utamanya. IBT ini biasanya dipakai kalau misalnya kalian mau apply ke luar negeri, biasanya pakainya IBT. Cuman again make sure lagi ke instansi atau ke tempat yang memang kalian mau tuju untuk next step-nya kalian. Apakah memang perlunya ITP atau IBT? Jadi tergantung jawabannya. Oke.
Question here, are there any specific topics for the long conversation and long talk section? No, the long conversation could be about anything. But it's generally, between two students talking, or it might be a student talking to, or it might be two lecturers talking. But no, there's no particular topic. The long talk will be from a lecture. So it'll be, all I can say about topic is it'll be something from an academic subject. So it might be about American history, it might be about science, but it could be about anything. Okay. I'm going to answer one more question just because Nita Fitri says part B and C are more arduous. Please give a few tips. And I think anyone that uses arduous in a TOEFL chat box deserves to have their question answered, really. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a moment and just try and fast forward on my presentation so I don't give you any spoilers. And I'll give you the same tip, really, which is following the answers while you do the listening, and I'll see if we can do a quick practice one. Okay.
Oke, sambil nunggu Mr. Darren share screen-nya, tadi aku sempat jawab pertanyaannya terkait apakah memang ada spesifik topik yang dibahas untuk long conversation sama long talk. Tadi dibahas sama Mr. Darren bahwa nggak ada. Jadi di long conversation atau long talk section ini akan ada banyak sekali hal yang dibahas dan mungkin juga tidak terduga. Makanya di sini disebutkan sama Mr. Darren, mungkin poin pentingnya adalah kalian benar-benar bisa punya referensi banyak vocabulary di situ, karena bisa aja kalau misalnya tadi sempat disampaikan yang long talk section itu biasanya itu lecture, jadi biasanya itu berupa hal-hal yang berbau tentang akademik. Makanya akhirnya di sini Mr. Darren sempat menyarankan kalau misalnya kalian bisa menambah vocabulary yang berkaitan dengan hal-hal yang berbau dengan akademik. Jadi vocabulary sama kemampuan kalian, fokusnya kalian untuk bisa benar-benar mendengarkan dan menemukan poin-poin yang disampaikan itu tadi, itu akan sangat membantu dibandingkan kalian fokus ke topik apa yang akan dibahas tiap tes. Karena memang topiknya akan sangat bermacam-macam dan berbeda-beda untuk itu. Oke? Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Good, thank you. I think I found a way to share it. Just before I do, there's that last question there. You know, in the longer talks and conversations, are we doing the same thing, trying to avoid the similar sounds? To a degree, but not as much, nowhere near as much as the short conversations. It's not your go-to strategy, particularly. Let me try and share again. Is this from the beginning?
Oke, buat Aksan tadi itu mungkin
No.
cuma jadi salah satu tips yang bisa kalian gunakan, tapi antara iya dan tidak gitu mungkin tadi ya, seperti yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren. Karena again tadi yang di-highlight sama Mr. Darren itu adalah kebanyakan dan sebagian besar yang terjadi kalau misalnya kalian menjawab audionya itu hal-hal yang disebutkan sama dengan ada yang di audio dan yang ada di lembar jawaban, itu kemungkinan besar adalah salah. Tapi bisa jadi hal yang ada di jawaban itu adalah sinonim dari apa yang disebutkan oleh di audio itu tadi. Jadi again kemampuannya adalah bagiannya adalah di bagian penguasaan vocabulary-nya kalian. Kayak tadi misalnya masalah headline. Tadi ada bagian beberapa beberapa jawaban yang mention soal headline, tapi jawabannya bukan itu. Sebenarnya jawabannya adalah seperti yang kalian ketahui, headline itu banyak hal. Jadi tapi yang dibahas tadi adalah apakah kamu sudah baca itu bahasa Indonesia apa sih? Judul yang ada di koran itu memang bahasanya adalah bahasa koran gitu. Jadi bukan hal yang berbau dengan headline yang sama-sama headline yang ada di jawabannya. Kurang lebih seperti itu. Back to you, Mr. Darren.
Okay. What I've got here is just one short conversation that you can listen to. But I'll put the answers up because that's what you'd be able to see in your answer book. Let me do that now. There we go. So you'll be able to see these even before the audio actually starts. And what I mean is you should read through these a little bit, just glancing at them while you're listening. And sometimes you can get rid of answers. You can think, okay, that's almost certainly wrong. Sometimes you can at least decide what each answer is referring to, and that'll help you later on. I'm going to play the audio first, and I want you to just follow it through, and then I'll talk about how the audio helps me to get rid of some answers. Okay, so I can ask everybody again if you could mute yourselves, please.
Oke, kita coba untuk latihan yang long. Is it long conversation, Mr. Darren?
Yeah, long
Okay,
conversation.
okay.
Listen to a conversation between two friends who are making plans.
Do you have any plans this weekend?
There's so much to choose from on campus that I'm not sure what I'm going to do.
The football game's on Saturday night, and I'm going with a group of friends. Do you want to go with us?
Of course I'd like to go to the football game. It's the biggest game of the season. And it sounds like fun to go with a large group of people.
Good. We'll be meeting at the cafeteria for dinner at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, and then we'll go on to the game together.
That takes care of my plans for Saturday night. But now I need to make a decision about Sunday afternoon. The music department is sponsoring a concert then, and I'd really like to hear that concert. But there's also a play being presented by the drama department that I really wanted to see. It's too bad those two events are at the same time.
You know, if you go to the game on Saturday night and a concert or play on Sunday, that doesn't leave much time for studying.
Oh, well. Maybe I can do that the weekend after this one.
Okay. Before I play the questions, you can just have a look at the answers. I need to tell you, by the way, I forgot to tell you, they generally go in order. So the answer to 31 will come in the audio before the answer to 32, and then 33, then 34. So start reading at the top and try and sort of ascribe a description or a reference point for yourself. You know, what are they talking about here with a play, a game, a study group? And here, it's the final game of the season. It's a very important game. Okay, they're talking about a game. Which game is it? And try and do that while you're listening. Okay, I'm now going to play the questions, and you can answer them in the chat box as before. After the question, just type your A, B, C, or D in the chat box.
Number 31. What is the woman planning to do Saturday? Number 32. Why does the man want to go to the football game? Number 33. What is at the same time as the music department's concert? Number 34. When does the man plan to study?
Okay, well done, most of you. I'm going to give you the answers now, but also tell you why I got rid of certain answers and why I was able to do that before I heard the questions. Okay, most of you put B for 31, which is very good. Go to a sporting event, not A, attend a football game, because of the word alone. She said she's going to a football game with a bunch of friends or with a group of friends, okay, and therefore A is wrong. And again, going back to that question about, do we still look to avoid the same words? Yes, to a degree. So here you've got football game in the wrong answer, and they just call it a more general term, a sporting event in the correct answer. Okay. 32 is the one that most people got wrong. It's always the one that most people get wrong. And again, this is a little bit using the same words in the wrong answer. So the answer A, it's the final game of the season, is not what the man said. What he did say is, it's the biggest game of the season. And if you're talking about sporting events, a big thing is an important thing. It's not the last thing. Okay, which is why the correct answer is actually C. Okay, 33, I think most of you got right. What's going on at the same time as the concert? It was a play. And 34, most of you got right again, maybe next weekend. Now, just before we play the audio again, when you hear the woman say, I'm attending a football game or I'm going to a football game with friends, you should instantly think, okay, A cannot be right. No one is going to that football game alone. Okay, so you know that the answer is wrong even before you've heard the question. And with 32, when you hear it's the biggest game of the season and your eyes are kind of looking at the answers and you see this, it's the final game of the season. If you're sharp at that point, you should tell that that's the wrong answer, because he said biggest and they said final. And the fact that you've got this answer here, which is with all these similar words to what you've heard, should kind of key you in on the answer and think, wait, is that the right one? Maybe, but he said biggest. Okay. And then if you look further down, you should see C. It's a very important game. When he's talking about things to do on Sunday, he talks about a concert and a play. At no point really do they talk about a study group meeting. They only talk about when will you study. She asks him when will he study. And then as it gets to the end of the audio, yeah, you should be looking at these ones. And honestly, when you hear maybe I'll study next weekend, you should be able to guess that the question is going to be when will he study. Okay, so I'm just keep that in mind. I'm going to play it one more time just so you can hear it and think about those. And then as long as we have no more questions, we'll finish. Sorry, Faris.
Listen to a conversation between two friends who are making plans.
Do you have any plans this weekend?
There's so much to choose from on campus that I'm not sure what I'm gonna do.
The football game's on Saturday night, and I'm going with a group of friends. Do you want to go with us?
Of course I'd like to go to the football game. It's the biggest game of the season. And it sounds like fun to go with a large group of people.
Good. We'll be meeting at the cafeteria for dinner at 6 o'clock on Saturday night, and then we'll go on to the game together.
That takes care of my plans for Saturday night. But now I need to make a decision about Sunday afternoon. The music department is sponsoring a concert then, and I'd really like to hear that concert. But there's also a play being presented by the drama department that I really wanted to see. It's too bad those two events are at the same time.
You know, if you go to the game on Saturday night and a concert or play on Sunday, that doesn't leave much time for studying.
Oh, well. Maybe I can do that the weekend after this one.
Okay. So the point is here, if you're looking at the answers while you're listening to the audio, quite a lot of the time, a surprising amount of the time actually, you'll A, be able to get rid of some answers, and B, sometimes just predict the question, quite often correctly. Okay. Okay, do we have any more questions? You're looking at your watch, right? Okay, no more questions, yeah? All right.
Oke, tadi kan sempat dibahas tuh sama Mr. Darren. Aku sempat recap sedikit aja. Aku recap sedikit aja dari apa yang disampaikan sama Mr. Darren. Sekali lagi, kita tadi kayaknya sudah 3 kali coba latihan terkait menjawab listening section. Dan yang dijelaskan sama Mr. Darren atau highlight dari hari ini untuk menjawab listening section ini adalah jangan pernah mencoba untuk menemukan jawaban sesuai dengan apa yang kalian dengar di audio. Kayak tadi misalnya kita kejebak lagi tuh. Tadi teman-teman kejebak lagi bahwa padahal di audio recordingnya itu dia bilang itu it's the biggest game of the season karena memang ada kata-kata game of the season. Terus di pilihan jawabannya juga ada kata-kata game of the season, tapi di situ tadi aku sedikit lupa tadi jawabannya apa, padahal tadi itu bukan jawabannya. Maksudnya adalah dari recording audionya itu, padahal itu memang the biggest game of the season, maksudnya memang itu event penting untuk season ini yang dimaksud, tapi akhirnya kita terkecoh dengan kata-kata yang sama. Terus tadi dari beberapa hal juga akhirnya sempat di-mention dan kita ketemu lagi kasus-kasus yang serupa. Jadi mungkin kalau misalnya boleh aku recap, salah satu general tips untuk bisa menjawab listening test ini adalah taking notes. Yes, kalian bisa mencoba untuk mencatat hal-hal atau poin-poin penting, tapi mungkin itu juga akan mengganggu fokus kalian karena memang untuk listening section ini kalian butuh fokus yang sangat tinggi atau konsentrasi yang cukup tinggi. Itu yang pertama. Lalu yang kedua adalah kalian pastikan untuk bisa menemukan jawaban itu tidak menggunakan kata-kata yang sama yang disebutkan oleh yang ada di recording audionya. Bisa jadi atau sebagian besar dari jawaban yang kata-katanya sama yang disebutkan di recording audio, itu sebagian besar adalah jawaban yang salah. Atau bisa jadi adalah kalian bisa menemukan jawabannya melalui sinonim atau mungkin kata-kata yang sama atau menggambarkan yang sama dengan apa yang disebutkan di audio. Dan cobalah untuk menemukan jawabannya itu dengan sesuatu yang berbeda atau sangat berbeda dengan apa yang disebutkan di recording audionya. Terbukti dari beberapa kali kita latihan tadi, memang jawabannya adalah sesuatu yang memang tidak disebutkan di audio tersebut, tapi memiliki arti yang sama dengan apa yang dimaksudkan di recording audio tersebut. Oke, teman-teman? Aku punya beberapa hal dulu untuk disampaikan sebelum kita mengakhiri kelas hari ini. Jadi setelah hari ini tadi kita selesai dengan listening section, kalian bisa langsung klaim nanti sertifikatnya, tapi kalau misalnya di sini kalian masih pengen tahu nih kemampuan bahasa Inggris kalian terkait grammar atau pengen cek kemampuan listening kalian atau pengen cek kemampuan reading kalian juga, kalian bisa ikut konsultasi gratis. Nanti kalian bisa langsung isi formnya sekalian kalian klaim e-sertifikat di akhir acara. Jadi setelah ini kita akan tunjukkan, boleh langsung ke next selanjutnya. Slide selanjutnya. Nah, belum berarti. 2 minggu lagi, bukan 2 minggu, minggu depan kita akan belajar grammar, jadi kita akan masuk ke kelas grammar lagi. Kalau misalnya kalian sempat ikut EF Talks di awal tahun, kita sempat masuk di grammar, materi-materi grammar dengan level-level dari beginner, intermediate, sampai yang advance. Kita akan masuk lagi belajar grammar atau cari tahu kira-kira grammar yang masih paling sering salah digunakan ketika kalian komunikasi atau ketika kalian sedang menulis itu grammar yang mana sih. Kita akan mulai dengan level beginner lagi, bareng sama Miss Yusi minggu depan. Tanggal 15, jadi nanti kalian bisa langsung daftar di link yang sudah ada di kolom chat box. Nanti kita akan mulai dengan materi-materi baru soal grammar yang akan dibawakan oleh Miss Yusi minggu depan tanggal 15, hari Sabtu jam 10 pagi juga melalui Zoom. Oke, dan untuk kalian yang pengen dapat e-sertifikat atau pengen memanfaatkan fasilitas dari YF untuk bisa analisa kemampuan bahasa Inggrisnya kalian bisa langsung isi form yang sudah aku cantumkan di layar. Kalian bisa scan atau bisa langsung akses link yang ada di kolom chat box juga. Jadi sekali lagi, melalui link yang ada di kolom chat box itu untuk klaim e-certificate, nanti kalian akan dapatkan e-certificate, materi, dan kalian juga akan bisa langsung menjawab pertanyaan seputar apakah kalian memang ingin mengikuti tes kemampuan bahasa Inggris kalian untuk mengukur kira-kira sejauh mana kemampuan bahasa Inggris kalian. Oke, jangan lupa langsung daftar juga untuk YF Talks minggu depan. Nanti kita akan ketemu lagi dan pembahasan grammar di minggu depan bersama dengan Miss Yusi. Thank you so much, Mr. Darren, for today.
Thank you too, Farid.
Oke, terima kasih juga untuk teman-teman yang memang sudah gabung hari ini. Linknya yang error yang mana teman-teman kalau bisa? Oke, ini coba aku benarkan dulu ya. Sekali lagi, sembari aku benarkan linknya, aku juga mau bilang terima kasih untuk kalian yang sudah datang hari ini. Nanti kita akan ketemu lagi teman-teman di minggu depan. Linknya sudah bisa diakses untuk bisa klaim sertifikat. Jadi kalian bisa akses lagi linknya, silakan diakses lagi. Sekali lagi aku mau ucapin terima kasih. Sampai jumpa minggu depan. Selamat berakhir pekan juga dengan cuaca yang sedang tidak menentu ini. Semoga kalian juga tetap diberikan kesehatan dan semoga kegiatan kalian lancar. Maaf kalau misalnya ada pertanyaan yang masuk dan belum sempat kita bahas. Nanti kita mungkin akan bahas di lain waktu dan kesempatan lainnya karena memang waktu kita terbatas. Sekali lagi thank you so much Mr. Darren for the last 3 months. These two full things. Hope to see you again in another occasion, okay?
Thank you, Farid. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Terima kasih semuanya. Jangan lupa untuk isi lagi ya. Ini aku cantumkan lagi nanti linknya untuk kalian bisa langsung daftar dan juga untuk ikut EF Talks minggu depan. Sampai ketemu lagi minggu depan dan sampai ketemu lagi di acara-acara selanjutnya ya teman-teman ya. Selamat siang semuanya.